Hi everyone, welcome. Welcome to SUTD. My name's Peter. I'm the coordinator for the Master of Architecture program, actually co-coordinator at this point with Calvin, who's going to be joining us in a moment. I'm very happy to welcome you all to today's symposium. It's a very exciting event. And to introduce this event, I'm going to invite our distinguished head of pillar, architect Ku Peng Beng, to come up and tell us a little bit about his vision for how this is going to work. Okay.
Hi everyone, it's so good to see all of you here on a Friday afternoon, taking just 2 hours off your work. Maybe traveling here will take you another 2 hours, but it's like going to Changi Airport. But so glad to see everyone here. And we are also very fortunate to have friends who have flown in from all over the world. And some of them have been core to the foundation of SUTD when it first began. So Professor Gerhard Schmitt from ETH is no stranger to Singapore because he's been involved in FCL and all the sort of civil service. We'll talk to him about the future of cities and future of the world. We have our ex-pillar head, Professor Jeffery Huang from EPFL, who was distributing Lego sets to Sec 4 pre-U students to invite them to come to SUTD. And today he's here to witness what ASD has become after 16 years. Also, we have friends from India and China. So the one of our top AI architect from China, Professor Philip Yuan, and Professor Anupama Kundoo from TU Berlin. She practices both in India and in Berlin. So wonderful lineup of foreign guests. But our local guests are no less impressive. We have people who are involved in determining how our city and the future of how architects practice. So we have Eng Hui, who is the CEO of URA. So every architect in this room needs to know Eng Hui. So Eng Hui is right here in our midst. And right next to Eng Hui, you see Rita So, who was the ex-president of Singapore Institute of Architects. And then she went on to head the ARCASIA, which is the Asian architectural sort of federation. And she knows many architects and all the institutes around Asia. So if you're looking for a job outside Singapore, you can go just for a little while in Bali, for example. And we also have Melvin. Yes, Melvin is immediate past president of the Singapore Institute of Architects. So both from practice, from governance, and from institutions all over the world, they fly in here to talk about this topic, to look at what ASD is doing, and to give us some feedback as to where we stand in the world. So today we are very fortunate to have a collection of minds and hearts that we are trying to weave together. And this event here is an invitation for them to share what they have found out, what they are working on, from their perspective, what is the future of AI in architectural practice and education. And I hope that you guys have prepared very sort of pressing questions in your hearts that you will throw at the panel later on for a wonderful, lively discussion. So all of this will be recorded. And for friends who have signed up but couldn't make it, no, not to worry. We also have a video recording of this that will be published in YouTube and all that. So without much ado, I'm just going to get Peter to start the proceedings. But before I hand the mic to him, I would like to make a big thank you to the estate of Albert Hong, who was my ex-boss, also involved in building up Singapore during the pioneering days. His estate has made possible a series of symposium. So this is one of the symposiums that it has sponsored. But next year, you can look forward to more such symposiums. We are going to bring back our Venice Biennale pavilion together with other Venice Biennale pavilions, for example, from Turkey and Lebanon, and all these curators will come in to share their vision with all of us here in this room. And in October, we will have Su Fujimoto coming into town. So mark your ever bright calendar with all these dates that we will publish very shortly. So please put your hands together for Peter, who will be hosting this whole event. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Peng Bang. So I'm going to introduce the rules of the game for today, how we're going to run the event. Please forgive me for this, but I'm also going to go into the biographies for each of our really eminent guests. We have a really wonderful panel today, so I'm going to just elaborate a little bit on the introduction that has already been made by Peng Bang, but I'll move through this quickly so we can get to the event. So this is going to start with a series of 4 presentations that will be made by our international panelists. They're going to be sharing their perspectives from practice, research, and teaching. After this, we're going to invite everyone to come up on stage. We're going to have 8 panelists, 4 from Singapore, 4 international, and we're going to invite the Singaporean panelists to reflect on what they've just heard. Through this, we're going to engender a dialogue. This portion of the discussion is going to be led by Calvin, by the way. And at the very end, we're going to reserve some time for your questions. So please do hold those to the end when we'll invite you to ask a few questions. Very, very quickly, Dr. Jeffery Huang is joining us from EPFL, full professor at the School of Computer and Communication Sciences, School of Architecture, Civil and Environmental Engineering, founding director of Media Design Lab, and also has served as director of the Institute of Architecture at EPFL. He's taught all over the world, including many years at Harvard Graduate School of Design, has been visiting professor at Tsinghua, visiting fellow at Stanford's D School, Berkman Fellow at the Berkman Klein Center for Internet and Society at Harvard University. We have with us also Dr. Anupama Kundoo, graduate from University of Mumbai, PhD from TU Berlin. She has a research-oriented practice started in 1990, based in India, that has generated people-centric architecture based on spatial and material research for low environmental impact, which is also socially and economically beneficial. Her works have been exhibited throughout the world, Louisiana Museum of Art in Denmark, among them. She has taught at many universities throughout the world, including Yale and Columbia, and currently professor at TU Berlin. Also with us in the audience, Dr. Gerhard Schmitt, Professor Emeritus of Information Architecture at ETH Zurich, also formerly founding director of Singapore ETH Center, established by ETH and Singapore National Research Foundation. After moving from Carnegie Mellon to ETH, she became chair of computer-aided architecture design, later information architecture. As vice president at ETH Zurich, he initiated the ETH World Virtual Campus and ETH Science City project. In Zurich and Singapore, he has led interdisciplinary research teams in sustainability, livability, resilience, and health in the city, leading research programs at Future Cities Lab, Future Resilient Systems, Future Health Technologies, and Cooling Singapore. Dr. Philip Yuan is professor and associate dean at the College of Architecture and Urban Planning at Tongji University. He's editor-in-chief of Architectural Intelligence Journal, and he has served as professor throughout the world, including the University of Virginia, MIT, RMIT, and has been a council member of the UIA Professional Practice Commission. His research focuses on the field of performance-based architectural tectonics, application of intelligent construction equipment, as he develops intelligent construction technologies. He's been able to realize many of his research theories through architectural practice. Recipient of many prizes, including the Auguste Perret Prize for Technology and Architecture in 2023. Among our Singapore panelists, Rita, managing director at RDC, has been involved across the full gamut of projects in Singapore, from healthcare to hospitality and residential, a board member at Sentosa, former president of the Board of Architects, former president of the Singapore Institute of Architects, former nominated member of parliament as well. Architect Melvin Tan, immediate past president, as Peng Bang said, and Joint Managing Director of Laud Architects, Singapore-based practice specializing in a range of typologies from churches to childcare centers, high-rise, high-density public housing, private housing, and commercial mixed-use developments. Recipient of many awards, including SIA Design Awards, HDB Design Awards, World Architecture Festival, and President's Design Awards for their projects. Joining us from URA, Chief Executive Officer Lim Eng Wee, former Chief Planner, Deputy Chief Executive Officer at URA. He has extensive experience in urban planning, urban design, and implementation of land use policies and development initiatives. He's also served with Ministry of National Development, Ministry of Trade and Industry, and the Board of Land Transport Authority. Finally, Emmanuel Ko, Assistant Professor at ASD and also in the Design and AI pillar at SUTD. He directs the Artificial Architecture Lab, an interdisciplinary research lab that focuses on design, development of deep learning models for artificial creativity, generative architecture, predictive urbanism, and even design defense intelligence. Emmanuel's taught throughout the world at the AA, Royal College of Architecture, Royal College of Art, Tsinghua, Strelka, and his design works have been exhibited extensively, including this year's Venice Biennale, where he was anchoring the exhibition. Winner of numerous design awards as well, including many that haven't been added to his online bio yet. Apologies, Emmanuel. We'll get them next time. So with this, apologies for the extensive introduction, but I do want to recognize the eminence of our guests and thank them all for participating today. With this, we're going to invite our first speaker, which will be Dr. Anupama, up onto stage. So please welcome her with a round of applause. To set up the slides for you.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And I would like to start by sharing our great pleasure to be here immersed in the activities of the different staff members and students here over the last 2 days. It has been a great pleasure to share your journey with you, and also now to take the opportunity to share my own journey. Since the presentation was produced and changed several times, even including a few minutes ago, based on what we felt we should share with you, please cut me off when the time is up, okay? I mean, it's all very informal how I have organized my thoughts. I just want to say first and foremost, to not disappoint you later, that I have nothing to do with AI, okay? But I do have something to do with of the AI, and I mean, it's more about the analog intelligence that I have experienced and I have proactively been working on since 3.5 decades of my career. I have also had this title, Making Differently. By making differently, I don't mean only the way you conceive of the architecture when you talk about it in AI, the technological changes that are affecting how you conceive the architecture. For me, making differently has to do with also making the actual architecture, not only making the image of the architecture, you know? So I want to explain also that the very important focus of materiality and the need for rethinking it in today's times. I would like to begin by saying that when it comes to technologies and technological development, it might be worth remembering what contemporary problem are we actually trying to solve for humanity through these technologies, whatever it is. That's always going to change. But the rootedness to the actual problem that will improve human society and steer it where we want it to go is worth remembering, and it's often forgotten, actually, even though it sounds so obvious. So I want to explain that in my journey of my research-oriented practice and my practice-oriented teaching, I have tried to focus on humanizing architecture, particularly because we have all seen that in the post-industrial production or times of post-industrial production of moving materials across continents to produce then another material that then is again moved to another place, we are all aware about the word sustainability, which we are using very lightly for everything nowadays. But we really know that are we, with whatever technology, are we really addressing the key issues, or are we adding to the problem? So I have noticed that every technology is often solving some aspect of the problem, but creating many more problems. And the rest of the people on the ground, like us, we are trying to catch up on cleaning up, and then they are creating a new technology which is creating again more problems than they solve, in my opinion. So, and now everybody's talking about the panic of natural resources are depleted and how finite everything is. But in reality, I have put my emphasis on the unlimited human resources that we must allow to flow into the equation. Because when humans use more resources of their own resources, their time, their care, their intelligence actually, then life intelligence is not to be underrated. And this human resourcefulness, it does not deplete, it only makes the human being evolve and to make them more clever in a holistic way. So with those type of notions, I wanted to remind us, and just so that you can relate to my work, that up until colonial times, materials used to be very local. And without all these new fancy technologies, we produced quite outstanding heritage of buildings with complex geometries, with complex skills. Instead of pooling the knowledge in a couple of experts, it was widespread knowledge of geometry, widespread. I mean, today people are impressed if you know how to stitch a button back. So, so the bar is also coming down, what we expect from humans. And I want to remind us of the bar. So to build with a local material didn't mean that you're doing some basic vernacular things, The material is not the determinant of the richness. It is the amount of also time and knowledge and expertise given, and how long-lasting these solutions have been. People would build either with, if you have wood, you build with wood. If you have mud, you build with mud. You literally build with what is on the ground. You could even build with ice. So from there, we have come to a landscape of uniformity, and it is the technologies. It is the post-industrial development that led to mass production through long supply chains and introducing a uniformity and over-standardized product in all the regions, regardless of even the climatic performance. And this image is something where there are two worlds in which the world is living. The one who succumbs to the standardization, and the one who is still fighting for autonomy, who are considered informal. Again, a colonial language word, nudging us that is a wrong way to, it's not the right idea of development. But my question, when I'm now working in Berlin in the European context, I ask myself, what is the point of doing efficiently things that need not be done at all? Is efficiency the only thing? Must we only use technology to only do what for its own sake? These are very important questions. And to understand what is indeed the common ground. And I want to just, since we don't have much time, I'm just going to show some images to show that what is the work that is behind the talk. This is how I began my career. I moved out of Bombay, and I started developing. I lived in a hut, actually, practically, but it was powered by solar energy and decentralized, from the grid. And, starting with very simple round wood structures, I had the opportunity to confront even what is really efficiency. The round wood, each tree is unique, but it can be harvested, if round, in a couple of years, 3 years or something, as opposed to 25 years, after which the tree is so big, and then you cut a rectangle. And these are questions to be asked by those who are driving efficiency. Is efficiency so efficient, So through that kind of, let's say the West has been driving models that are then dictating the urban materiality, which I'm calling a materiality problem in the rest of the world, where even concrete is now being used as a vernacular material, and all these bricks that you see are also not allowed to be carrying load, because alongside there is a new type of regulation world developing that is coming in the way of innovation. So there is the gravity has not changed, and the human biology didn't change much too. So yet the codes are changing. So there is this form follows regulations, form follows money, all of these as parallel developments. And in that context, I have tried in my practice to go to the source and to understand that a lot of the green rating systems, etc., which are all based on generalizations, in my opinion, all wrong, because they say a brick takes so and so many kilojoules. It's not true. It depends whether you fire it with what? Where is the clay from? How much did you move things around? And so a brick is not just a brick, and neither is a stone. So I have spent a lot of research and time to find out right from the source, how do you start to move material, and how do you create contemporary architecture with skills, etc., that include all the people who are involved, the analog, whatever we build, however you conceive it, the end of the day, the material is analog. It will affect a quarry in a place and all the socio-economic and environmental realities that I feel are still being underestimated. So of course, a lot of the architecture that I produced, which was literally with the material from the ground, has caused a lot of resistance, in the sense that there is, you often face the myth that it'll be too expensive to use what is on the ground. There's always that excuse, and I think one should really do the math and find out, instead of buying into these myths. So to address the urban materiality problem, I have been working on several strategies. One of them is to focus on human empowerment, but also widespread knowledge, not only a few experts thinking and the others being lazy and being asked to follow and being actually paid to not think in offices, isn't it? Like, look, the Starbucksification of not only coffee, or the Lego that you played with is later you are thinking you're an architect, but you're actually assembling pieces that other people decide, and they don't give you much freedom. And so that has involved a lot of deep-rooted material research, even in what is concrete, what are the fibers in concrete, what can be changed, and going into all the details and producing an architecture which really uses minimum energy, uses climate, responsive, passive designs, and so on. But rather than whining about the shortage of resources, it's more about celebrating human resourcefulness, not sidelining the human being, not doing a top-down architecting where the people's intelligence can actually come into the play. So these are, for example, terracotta potters whose craft has been channeled into custom-made roofing systems that are intelligently, through engineering, being able to be given, to bring in a new materiality where the material is not new necessarily, but the way to put it together is new in the sense that it uses significantly less resources. And these are some examples of that kind of architecture and that kind of production, where, for example, here the pots are not ornamental, they are filler slabs, they are a lost formwork to reduce the steel by 60%. Through that kind of intelligent engineering and a hybrid of people on the ground, what skills they have, and how can new skills also be introduced. So it's a bit more invisible, and it's not necessarily so photogenic in the design stage as it is in the real life, So, these are some of the buildings that resulted out of this kind of thinking. This is my own house after I moved out of the hut. but also, but also I feel that, there are so many codes and laws and so on. I'm also trying to focus on research that could decentralize the production of housing, just like the birds and bees are still managing to build their own things. Humans are not, you need to wear hats, you need a lot of, like, as if the whole world is a war zone, where you need a lot of permits to go there. So I'm working with ferrocement and other materials, including how to treat them. And so it's very much on the matter. But yeah, this is some of the outcome of that. This is in the Venice Biennale 2016, I think, that was shown. But we are working very closely with, this is Mike Schleich's laboratory, where we have tested some of the ferrocement units that show the ductility of such a material compared to concrete that is bending instead of breaking, So there is a lot of potential for real materiality on the ground, but I think some of our technological processes may not be addressing those because not enough people with that know-how, because they may not be rooted in the ground reality. So while they're developing knowledges, they may not be able to make a difference in the world. That is my concern that I want to bring forth, okay? So these are some images, and you're also looking at how, in the future, if we radically reduce the resources with which architecture could be produced, I'm looking at crease patterns, and from origami, etc., to be using paper as lost form work, or generating with very little mesh, shelter. So I think I should stop here. I don't know, what is the time? 1 more minute, 1 whole minute, okay. So I just show you some collective housing and some images, okay? I think it's good to show some images. This is urban waste research. This is a project in Barcelona. And a lot of the urban waste that we are recycling into buildings have to do with also, a couple of cycles of use of materials are also something we are very much investigating. My studio project last semester was called Trash is Treasure, because the modern methods, in spite of 30 years of acknowledging sustainability problems, we are producing way more mess than we did. And we are continuing to call everything sustainable. It's really shocking. But anyhow, we are helping our students to face the back end of, we take them to Berlin's trash management and take materials, try to produce architecture in a way that it can absorb these materials. I will just end with this last project. I've recently done a pavilion for the German book fair entry in Calcutta in India, and this is the whole pavilion is made out of bookshelves, so that even after the pavilion is made and had its life, it can be distributed all over the city as urban infrastructure. So there are a lot of thoughts that we are applying for a couple of cycles of work right from the beginning. We know that architecture will have its life, and we are working with all these lives. So I think in conclusion, I would like to say that we do have to, yes, radical experimentation, but we do need to humanize architecture. And otherwise, we will even lose touch with the problem. I feel we have to, I just want to mention that architecture is a custom-made product, and we have to watch out for over-standardization. And when you standardize, there's a lot of waste that comes out of the non-standard pieces. And the thinking of everything in a standard way is also wiping out the identity issues and the diversity in the society. And we really have to watch out for that. And the other important point I want to make now, the rest can come up in the talk, is I think there is an inherent superiority of those who are developing technologies, and they are alienating the rest of the society. So in life, like if you talk about life's intelligence, from one cell, by intelligent division, I have been produced, for example. And that is the intelligence of life. And beyond language, There is a holistic intelligence in life. So to call everything intelligence, which is actually a more narrow intelligence, we humans have to be vigilant, because we need to ensure that we do not keep the thinking to a very few people, because that will be a new kind of oppression. The language itself, you call it literacy in your school. The language itself is alienating. And a lot of intelligence, real intelligence out there, including the making of everything, from food to clothes and to architecture, all of these are not finding their way into the type of conceptions which are coming from a very small group. It's getting smaller and smaller. Those are my concerns. Thank you very much.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. First, let me thank Peng Beng for the kind invitation, and then to Peter for the kind introduction. It's a particular pleasure to be back at SUTD and also to see so many familiar faces from the past. As mentioned by Peng Beng, I had an incredible privilege to be the first head of pillar at ASD, the Architecture and Sustainable Design. So more than 10 years ago, 12 years, I was here when the university was established in collaboration with MIT, for those of you who remember. We built not just a school, but a particular culture. And it is amazing to see how far it has come along under Peng Beng's leadership and under Irvin Virey and Tai Li Shang. What is most remarkable in conjunction with the topic of today is how early SUTD anticipated the importance of AI. I think earlier than any other university in the world, and embracing AI for research and teaching. And today it stands among the top, the leaders worldwide at the intersection of of architecture and AI, of design and AI. So we hear much about AI and efficiency, about jobs displaced and productivity gained, economies transformed. But I want to speak about something else, not efficiency, not optimization, not imagination, about how AI unsettles creativity, and with it, architecture, cities, and the way we learn. So, for centuries, creativity has been seen as uniquely human. The spark of imagination, the mark of the artist, the genius of the architect. But today, neural networks learn to draw, to compose, to invent. They produce forms that both resemble and estrange our traditions. In Switzerland, we trained GANs, generative adversarial networks, on thousands of alpine huts, symbols of nation, of authenticity, of belonging. The result, artificial Swissness, cabins that look familiar but strange, gables warped, timbers multiplied, ornament exaggerated until tradition becomes uncanny. Estrangement, as Viktor Shklovsky once wrote, makes us see the familiar anew. It is the beginning of imagination. Estrangement is not error, it is method. It breaks the familiar, it reveals what we take for granted. It is the starting point of creativity. It reveals blind spots, it forces us to confront the data we inherit, the tastes we canonize, the biases we normalize. Cities too are shaped by patterns, by extending what worked yesterday, urban grids, zoning laws, transport models projected forward. Urban planning has long dreamed of prediction. Models from the 60s promised to forecast growth, to optimize transport, to tame the unruly city. But cities are not machines. They are alive. They move in ways we cannot fully predict. Cities are not just forms, they are flows of people, of water, of energy, of animals, of goods, of waste, of microbes, of labor, of culture. This is why we are building a foundation model of urban flows in Switzerland again, the Blue City project. A large flow model, or LFM, similar to LLMs, but not for language, but for urban flows. A GPT for cities. An AI trained on planetary scale urban flow data, able to generate from one place to another while adapting to local specifics. To deepen understanding of cities, to let cities imagine their own metabolism, to open scenarios, reveal dependencies, expand the field of negotiations between planners, citizens, and ecologies. Architectural schools ask, what should we teach in the age of AI? Should we train Da Vinci-like generalists or narrow technical experts? Even imagination has limits. At Princeton, researchers studied the Drosophila fly. A mother fly can transport only part of the memory to her offspring, because neurons have chemical and physical limits. Learning is never infinite, not for flies, not for us. Cognitive science tells us we can hold only 4 chunks of information at once. This is the bottleneck of thought. AI stretches this. It extends memory, it expands recall, it becomes a prosthesis for imagination. But imagination is not only memory, it is attention. Attention runs on dopamine. And our digital platforms know it. Infinite scroll, variable rewards, notifications that spike the brain. What if these same mechanics could motivate and sustain learning? Trigger curiosity, reinforce wonder, spread knowledge like memes, addictive discovery rather than addictive distraction. Neuroscience adds another layer. Brainwaves can be measured in real time, attention, fatigue, stress. Neurofeedback can help us recognize overload, protect mental health, design better rhythms for learning and making. Yet some knowledge resists machine learning, and this is maybe a little bit linking to the previous talk, tacit knowledge. The hand of the bricklayer, the tiler setting ceramic, the carpenter shaping timber. These skills are not in textbooks. They are in bodies, in wrists and shoulders, in habits built over years and apprenticeships. AI cannot replace this, but it can extend it, reveal patterns, invent hybrids, extend tacit skill into new futures. So across art, across cities, across learning, AI produces estrangement, a distortion, a provocation, a planetary imagination. A city that thinks and feels with us, a culture that experiments through estrangement, an education tuned to the rhythm of the brain and the dynamics of the crowd. The gift of AI is estrangement, to estrange us from the familiar, to make room for imagination, and to give us back the future. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and nice to be here. Thank you for the invitation. And I want to talk a little bit about AI and the future of architecture, practice, and education. And a few questions, times and place. AI in architecture and education. These are all questions. AI and architecture. Who is and who are the design authors actually with AI? AI, complexity, science, and scales. Do we still need the scales? And what comes after AI? Fair AI in planning, citizen design, science, responsive and generative cities, and finally, as conclusion, empowering citizens. Because I'm so old, I have been plagued by AI in design for more than 40 years now, so since 1984. And as you can see, different places, my personal living labs, from very small places like Eltville, on the village and direct democracy side to mega cities on the other side, and in different places. And everything that's yellow are times and places where I was involved in AI in design. A different type of AI in design that we see today. 1984 at Carnegie Mellon University, very simple, one computer, many people, and very interesting discussions about languages. These were all the languages we had to not learn all of them, but programming languages, Lisp being important. But we were much more interested in the architecture of the vicinity. That was Frank Lloyd Wright with Falling Water. Could that be captured as an artificial intelligence object, as rules? Could we find a fractal definition of this type of architecture? And we tried to do that and were partially successful. We could do accidents, that were accidents, but we could also produce building facades, landscape and trees with fractal designs by 1987. Then moving to ETH Zurich and jumping into the first chair of computer-aided architectural design, which was really a camouflage for AI in design, which I couldn't say because nobody wanted to know about it and didn't know what it was. So it was computer-aided architectural design with large courses for many hundred and sometimes thousand students. The first use of ray tracing in the objects that were generated, like you generate objects today with your AI programs. But in difference to that, we had to use a structural idea and program the individual parts of the buildings and then render them. Using neural networks already, as you see at the bottom, shape grammars at the top, going very far also in PhD in this direction. And finally, using case-based reasoning, which was one of the AI methods of this time, very early in 1992, here to actually build also a hut. And this hut is still standing today, but it's made with renewable materials with 500-year-old oak beams and adobe in between. 1995 was already the interaction with one-to-one design objects, also created with, one would say today, AI methods. And these were objects that we had to project in huge arenas. That's why it was very expensive. And we had goggles, of course, like you sometimes have today. And we simulated gravity because it was very important that people could understand working with that. I just found this by accident 2 or 3 days ago on the internet, a new design studio, we called it. The core of the new design studio comprises intelligent objects in a virtual reality environment that exhibit different behaviors drawn from artificial intelligence and artificial life principles. A part already realized in the tool called Sculptor. That was this project that you saw. The tasks of the architect will focus on preferencing and initiating good tendencies in the development of the design. We had to word it this way because the architects were absolutely sure not to mention anything that their work could be impacted. There were 3 prototypical agents that we built and conceptualized: the navigator, the sound agent, and the presenter, because we knew the other senses had to be present in the student, otherwise it would be just not a good studio, not a good design. And they were meant to be personal assistants trained by each user to adapt to her individual person. Who was born after 1995 here in the audience? Quite a few. Okay, because there was, of course, no Google or no Facebook or none of this, so it was very interesting to do. And we called this not design AI, but we called it artificial design intelligence. But then what was next? We used this in architecture education. And it became clear we had to have new ways, because who is the author when we do collaborative design with these tools and the authors? Make a long story short, these were the people who worked with us, and they were very serious because they were worried, because they had to make all these decisions, and they were very successful afterwards. But this was the time when we did mimetic architecture, phase X it was called, and on the left side you see the first phase, about 200 students. Then in the next phase they had to go to the next level of dimensionality from 2D to 3D or something like that, but they couldn't continue on their own design. They had to take somebody else's design, they had to pick the best and continue on that design then further, and the next phase again and again and again. And on the right side you see only 3 or 4 colors. That means all of these designs were in the end dependent on these first ones. And they had, as I said, no Facebook or something, so they had to make their own representations. They graded each other because there were so many students. And more this course evolved in different representations and presentations. But again, this was 1995, so 30 years ago. And very big tests on how this would develop, how the memes would travel through the system, and so on. We came to a point that AI, complexity science, and scales collided. That was much later. And maybe a few words to complexity science, why we think it's important. Complexity science combines many of the AI methods with methods in architecture. And it is also very much related to societal problems. So you can see foundations of complex systems, societies under stress, societies in transition, and metabolism of societies are all topics that are worked on in this Complexity Science Hub in Vienna today. Quote here, AI provides computational tools to model, analyze, and predict complex systems, while complexity science offers theoretical frameworks to guide AI development toward more adaptive, robust systems that can navigate the real-world complexity. And the real-world complexity is starting everywhere. It's in the forest is a complex system. The wood is a complex system. We're getting into the bookshelf story, because that was created by the students in the studio before, and then tried to build it in reality afterwards, but only by local material, but still cutting it in boxes, you know, very sorry. And that went all the way then to Singapore, where we tried robots in a smaller scale in the Singapore ETH Center, and had high-rises built by that. Then going back to Zurich, we could build these things in reality with the huge CNC machines that we had then. Here's, by the way, George Yuan taking pictures of this new robotic building at ETH Zurich. And this in the, of course, Dr. Tony Tannet, but the important AI part is on the left in the back. This is the energy system of Ethiopia that we were simulating and making big presentations. Very important that this complexity in urban planning, using, of course, AI, was seen very early also by leading figures in Singapore. You see Peter Ho here, for example, and Helga Nowotny was the inventor of the ERC grants and the president of the European Research Commission in founding the Complexity Science Center in Vienna. This is the Complexity Science Center today, and it's a wonderful place with people from all the world coming there, doing research in these historic buildings and rooms. Of course, Future Coolil Singapore, also a project here in Singapore, was using AI and also a lot of complexity science already. Many people involved in this, maybe some of them are here in the room, and leading to this very important maps and ideas of how the heat island effect in Singapore is developing over time in different parts of the city. And the cars starting to drive in the morning, releasing heat into the system that then also contributes to the heat island effect. But now, what comes after AI? Imagine AI is commercially successful, as the internet was in the 90s, and social media in the 2000s. Imagine it has become ubiquitous and forms an additional human cognitive dimension. What goals could be achieved for society and design? Because we cannot just keep going, it would be a waste of material and everything, as you heard before. We have, this is our concept, how it could move. We move from smart cities towards responsive cities. And we move from sustainable cities towards generative cities. And in between, we have this thing called citizen design science, which is comprised of citizen design, design science, and citizen science. Many case studies we made in this context to prove the capacity of this concept. We find out with this, and there I agree with many things which were said in the last days, we have massively underestimated the capacity of citizens, and I mean citizens, not experts, and small, medium enterprises to employ AI tools. There's a huge power behind that. And citizens in the past, they had this power too. This Ponte Vecchio, of course, in Florence, many know, already employed citizen design science. This combination of these three factors. Citizen design was used, or is used in South America in the favelas. It was used for beautiful structures in Ladakh here in India. And it was also used in exercises here in Singapore with the population of Singapore on the ideas for Tanjong Pagar. Thanks to URA, we could do this research. And citizen science is also a known entity. Very simple means, also in India, in Ladakh. Also employing technology with the help of scientists on building a long time ago. And also this one in Singapore, again, cooling Singapore, interacting with the persons of the city to make the whole cooling Singapore program better. And finally, design science, this is what we learn in school, the compressed knowledge of architecture in books and so on, with which then we can extract formulas and shape grammars and recreate or create these beautiful structures here. The other important point next to this citizen design science or result could be responsiveness. Responsiveness is more than smartness or reaction. And it's using AI, of course, as well. Citizens need to see and understand the state of their city, its metabolism and planning scenarios in real time. That would be nice. The citizens can suggest local solutions to larger problems, and citizens can co-design and co-manage the city. Believe it or not, this is possible in some places in the world, big cities even, in South America. And for this, we did a massive open online course. 180,000 students participated on future cities, livable cities, smart cities, and responsive cities. And because there were so many people, they created thousands and thousands of designs for the same design process, and then graded against each other, and learned a lot, and founded actually institutes of responsive cities now, for example, in Brazil. And coming back after Singapore, I decided to carry the knowledge and the research results from the huge city and see if they actually work in a tiny village in Switzerland. Of course, this is much harder in a tiny village than in a big city, because things are not as organized, there's not much data, it's data poor and everything. But strategy, planning, land use, the steps, talking to villagers and explain it to them and encouraging them to bring in their ideas, it works as well as in Singapore. And many, many things are very parallel and work quite well. So I can report here about this, and I report in the village about Singapore, and that interests everybody. Then the last part is the generativity. Generativity is it's beyond sustainability. It means to produce with renewable resources more than a city needs, and to improve its situation over time. The examples could be energy, food, finances, culture, knowledge, and simulation, complexity, science, and AI are of course key for that. I must say, generative architecture and cities I refer to as products, whereas, for example, generative AI is a tool to lead to a product. Just keeping that in mind, this building, for example, has been built, and it is generative in that it produces 3 times as much energy as it needs. Or this one here, also in agriculture, you can do that with biogas and photovoltaic. You can actually run half a data center with this cow shield. But more important are new things like generative, fair AI, urban design and planning algorithms and programs, a PhD by Hangxin Lu here in Singapore and in Zurich, to improve procedural fairness with citizen design science in making new city proposals. And it can be used in many aspects. You can also see here it's in medical libraries have interest in that, and it's really working quite well. Or in Java, where so many new places are being built and have to be built in Indonesia, this is also a good opportunity. I want to come to the conclusion. Empower citizens, we think, is absolutely necessary. With citizens, and this is like saying, please do that. Design co-governance between people and machines. We have to face the situation. It can be very beneficial. Educate students to become responsive citizens of the world with AI as cognitive dimension. Design AI and destruction AI are very close. Robots and drones, you see what is going on in the most modern wars at this time. And so we have a big responsibility if we use these tools, because they can always be used for the opposite. Finally, to go from smart cities to responsive cities is very important. These are places where the inhabitants of the city do all the work in culture, in education, and so on. They face the problem sometimes of shrinking cities, which this part of the world is not facing yet. But with this, responsive cities can be a very good answer. And sustainable cities, move it to generative cities that make more with less and lead to a good future. So, conclusion, please do think beyond AI already now. Citizen design science, responsive cities, generative cities might be one option. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for the invitation. It's a great honor for me to experience over the past few days here. And it's very impressive syllabus, and also including the faculties, and everything here is fantastic. So I'd like to briefly introduce what we're doing recently in Shanghai, because like last year I just make a keynote speech in the Kedra, but today it's a little bit different topic, which is about architecture intelligence, co-agency, co-pilot, and coexistence. Firstly, going back to some philosopher, Bernard Stiegler, I invite him twice coming to Shanghai to make different courses to our PhD student. I think his theory about the holistic view of the planetary net entropy, and he is talking about we are right now aiming to explore the new urban intelligence, and also may promote for the entropy reduction or reducing for the economic growth pattern, which is super important because the growth embodies essential of the new urbanism, new humanism, with the crucial aspect being redefined and integrate relationship between the humans, nature, and between the human and non-human. Another philosopher who is very interesting, Benjamin Bratton, I invited him to Shanghai before the COVID, 2019, and he gave us a very special lecture series on the holistic view of terraforming the planet surface. So he actually categorized the planet in a different way, not in by the country, is not by the different nations, but is all the way by different layers, including the users, interface, address, city, cloud, and the earth. So the blurring the artificial and the natural, I think it's a kind of certain perspective for the terraforming, stacking the future urban planetary. And this is actually go back to the history of the AI, which Maria Kapo tried to mapping over the past 50 years what's already happened on AI. It's different trend, which is happening right now is booming. So I would like to position what I'm doing there. In my neighbor is Philip Rock, and including Grandma Scholar. I think we're doing some like digital fabrication or digital tectonics. So over the years, I think over the 15 years, we organized a special event named Digital Futures. Year by year, we almost right now 25,000 people participate in this event. And 2 years ago, we put forward a special topic named co-agency, co-pilot, and coexistence. I also would like to address this thinking to another philosopher who is named Yuxi, who is used to staying in France for over 10 years, but right now he's teaching in Hong Kong. I think the co-agency is kind of the future. I was talking about the biospheres, because our human have our brain and we have design skills, we have our imagination, but as well as parallel to some non-human, like including some agency, intelligent agency, they are still have some like similar skills compared to human body. So it's kind of co-agency will be the future, is to integrate, how to integrate the human and non-human. The co-pilot is like toolbox instruments. So we're talking about the technical sphere. So it's super important. We're not want to just sharing the ChatGPT or some AI platforms. Everyone can use it. It's coming to the optimal solution all the way to the best solutions in the future. But we try to explore and develop different co-pilot platforms. So that is should benefit the future education, how we can address our education for the future. And what existing right now is like the human, non-human is coexisting, which is like the special new diversity, which is coming from the mindset. We are trying to address all of us to the anthroposphere. We try to produce 3 kinds of diversities, including the biodiversity, including the technical diversity, and also including the new diversity from mindset. So that is the fundamental I want to analyze what we're doing during our workshop culture. This year we design a real, it's like a 14-meter span transparent bridge, and year by year we already achieved more than 10 bridges, which is totally based on the new tools, then help us to make ourselves extremely strong in design. So every year the guests were invited to passing through this bridge. So this year is 33 people standing on that, including Mark Burry and other people standing there. So this is a task for the design. This is design, but it's more than design, it's go to the knowledge. So without knowledge, we can do that. There's such a lightweight structure, right? And also this is like every year we have a tower. There's a prototype test bed. Actually, this is we collaborating with UC Leuven, supported by the national funding, and we designed some like pavilion, which is totally based on the graphic statics, and introduce this kind of knowledge into the structure, performance, simulation, and optimization process. So we have a bundle of solutions, but the final is the testbed only constructed in 1 week. So this is like the special material, including the bar material, natural wood, and also including some like laminate wood. So it's kind of integration, trying to produce some kind of structures, which is based on technology, but more than the imagination, people can collecting the waste material and embed it back into the design. So that is, I think, technology is hidden here. It's not in the front, standing in front, but actually helps a lot, enhance a lot. And this year we're scanning, or we have more than 500 people coming to join us in the workshop. And we're asking for their proof to take photos to around 400 people. And we try to generate the special digital future faces. So the digital future eyes and digital future face. And by the AI tools, we project it by 4 projectors onto the entrance, the facade of the entrance of my school. So I think it's kind of implementation. It's kind of design for our community culture we try to establish in Shanghai. Over the past 3 years, we also established a journal named Architecture Intelligence. So over 90 essays already published, and also Emmanuel has already published 2 of them. So I think we try to make promotion for all the researchers around the whole planet, on the whole world, try to explore the different possibilities, how to introduce architecture intelligence into not only the practice, but also research as well. So the topic was 3 scenarios for the architecture intelligence, including the smart habitation, virtual habitation, and quantum habitation. So, which is a new platform based on the evidence-based architecture research methodology, all the way go to the sustainable development. And this is actually the group from my program. I'm the chair professor for the computational design and robotic fabrication. My group, over the past 8-9 years, we developed a certain platform named FU Cyber. So I think this is like non-human platform, which is an multi-agent system. We developed accompanied with my research and our group's research. So including 3 softwares on it is FU Generator, FU Robot, and FU Sense. So over the years, we have a lot of PhD students graduate, but most of them, when they leave, their scriptings, everything we're spreading out, but we try to build a special sharing platform inside our group. I think that's extremely important. The student can stand on other shoulders to develop further toolkits on this platform. So this is FU Generator. I've briefly introduced the framework, which is also platform architecture, which is like a special framework. So based on the general model infrastructure, we actually introduced a knowledge graph system into this platform. And we also introduced the personalized working flow. And this kind of pipeline could defined by designers. And multi-design agency was developed on this platform. So it's a tailored HCI workflow and reinforced designer decision authority. And also, we especially put forward the data, how to organize the data architecture. So we name it as the spatial data information modeling. So which is fundamental, the main knowledge how to operate this platform FU Generator. Actually, the architecture intelligence data framework for the high dimensional data-driven geometry generating process should be defined by the multi-dimension, how to categorize this kind of data and how to categorize different data based on this platform. And also, this is the special toolbox we develop on this platform. FU Generator is a latent tectonics architecture. So it's kind of a bundle of multi-agent system. We try to introduce all these kind of AI libraries and also the SDK toolkits into the design working flow. So I think this kind of multi-agent system can help us to custom a pipeline to personalize the task handling, and multiple uses could be built some comprehensive capacities. This is a one-stop development platform and actually developed by several, I think right now more than 10 PhD students are working on that. So we categorize the planning module, execution module, memory module, and the verification module. So in the future, we are still working on that, and we try to introduce more people working with us or sharing with others by this kind of AI platform, especially custom for the mind and hand collaboration for the future designers. And also we designed another platform names, software names FU Robot. We're working on that around 9 years. So it's like a one-stop seamless connecting the architecture geometry all the way to the true paths of the robotics. So right now, over 80 robotics from all of the users from all over the world coming to join us on this community, so which can output some robotic digital twin simulation directly control different robotics. As well as we're making hardware as well. So this is 2015, we developed the prefabrication, the gantry robotics, and 2019, the mobile robotics. And this is during the COVID 2021, we also designed this kind of mobile robotics, 3D printing, 6 different kinds of crops could be integrated in this box, transport to different construction sites. And also what we're now working on is a kind of a polar coordination mobile robotics 3D printing platform, which can print 6 meters high, 6 meters cantilever, big structures and scenarios. So these are the common knowledge we built in our group, including software platform, including the hardware platform, including thinking methodology. And I would like to introduce some of examples how we implement all of them into the reality. So this is the Venice Biennale 2018. I introduced this project. It's crafting robotics in the age of AI. So this is I think it's a timber structure we generate by a special form. And at that time, we tried to program these digital twins to control robotics by simulation. And the detailed drawing is not by hand. The detailed drawing is something like this. It's some scripting sent to the robotics and help us to build all the timber structures in a very short time. The whole building was constructed in only 52 days in the rural area of China. So we named it in bamboo. So you can see the local material, which is based on the new geometry, which prefabricated by the robotics. this is Philip Block working with me over the past few years. We collaborate teaching in MIT, so this is traveling studios. So we introduce 3D printing for the scaffolding because for this kind of shell structure is extremely waste. For example, if I talked to Sajima because they spend a very large amount of timbers to be the scaffolding. But to implement the custom geometry folding and folding technology, we can very accurately printing the geometry of the supporting scaffolding for this structure, shell structure. So this is we take away the reuse this kind of 3D scaffolding for a special, very thin structure. And after 6 months, we implement this technology to construct a 45-meter span shell in Zhejiang province, Wuzhen. So the width of this shell is only 15 centimeters, so it's like 1/3 of the eggshell. So it's what we achieve by research. It's switched from research all the way to the practice. This is last year I presented this project in Buenos Aires Biennale, so which is a non-local locality. The non-local is actually a technology, it's a global technology. Locality is what the construction site, which is facing a rockery and also a pond on the very different height counterlines landscape. So in this project, we want to introduce part of it, how to have a dialogue to the tradition of architecture in the drawings. So this is the images we're collecting. So the design is in 2019. We introduced StyleGAN at that time for the facade design, to training the data set for this kind of Asian Chinese drawing and project it to the facade and try to translate this kind of greenness into the rotation of the bricks. So we introduce robotics to 6 robotics in 4 months to construct the whole buildings. So you can see this kind of elegant facade system is kind of representation of the landscape. So it's kind of abstractness we try to fabricate. You can see in a very close distance, it's very elegant, but accurately constructed by robotics in the real practice. This year, I also got invitation to participate in Venice Biennale. This is a project I would like to introduce. So we name it as Poesis. It's a primary future of architectural intelligence. So last year, when I got the invitation, the typhoon brought down almost 10,000 trees in Shanghai. And also, the beginning of this year, and actually in LA, I think the fire almost destroyed over 16,000 square kilos. I think it's climate change. We should facing with rethinking on how to make recycle or reuse the material, because the trees are blowing down. So my PhD student, the leading team of my students, go to the urban forestry to scanning and collecting all these kind of branches and how to think about reuse these waste materials. So we implement another software platform named FUSense. So just taking a video surrounded in 20 seconds, you can model them in the millimeter centimeter of all these kind of materials. Every piece is different. And also we're training the special data set, introduce the G2M within is the grab to manufacture, to training the position of how to grab these different pieces, the timber, the branches, and also introduce another robotics of fabric on it. So it's training data set and introduce how to efficiently custom every pieces is different, this kind of branches. And also we introduce AI to stacking all these kind of structures, materials by their length, by their width, and by the structure performance into a geometry system. So this is, we almost collecting 600 pieces and implement around 500 pieces into this special pavilion. So this is we prefabricate in only 1 month in Shanghai before, after Chinese New Year, because its time is very limited. Normally for Biennale, so very time is limited. And how to prefab and fab again. So we introduce like VR for the accurate position. They take some glasses and the modeling. Yes, in Venice, we spend only 6 days. The workers is from Milano. So they can follow by this model, accurately position all these prefab pieces for this pavilion. A video here trying to introduce what we're doing. Oh, not this one. Okay. Maybe time is not enough. So in this, I think maybe next one. One is after the opening, we're also collaborating with MIT ETH and University of Torino to make a workshop collaborating with grammar scholar to training this kind of humanoids. And it's an MIT team, and also how to introduce this new technology in training the robotic, the humanoid behavior and integrate with the human behavior in the Biennale. So we have 3 groups of students coming in half a year to Venice to learn how to training the humanoids by the reinforced learning technology. I think time is not enough. It is a training process. So we teach all the PhD students how to make use of the software we develop. And the humanoids can be trained stepping on the stairs and can shaking hands with people, and also can by LLM can talking to in 6 different people by 6 different languages in Venice Biennale. So this is a workshop. Okay, this is a pavilion. We first introduced humanoid into the Venice Biennale, and also sharing this platform with different universities. Last but not least, I want to introduce the real project, urban renovation in Shanghai. We designed a bundle of projects. Today, only one project I want to introduce. In the extremely hot summer last year, the summer we spent only 4 months to prefab and construct this kind of urban renovation project inside Shanghai. It's real photos. So it's based on the structure performance because it's a museum. So we need 18 meters span for the light, introduce the light into the exhibition space. So how to handle the super heavy brick facade, because it's a historical area. We try to have a dialogue to the environment. So all this is custom, and also interior space, something like this, and interior space. So this is one corner, just put the example, because it should be based on the accurate formation process and also training the robotics to fabricate accurately, efficiently on site. So we introduced this mobile robotic platform onto the construction site. And this is a construction process, automatic construction process, implement robotics to fabricate such kind of accurate constructions. This is like the modular prefabrication pieces and planning them based on the FU sense how to fabricate them by the real-time measuring day by day. Last but not least is another last project I presented in 2021 Venice Biennale, because it's in the rural area of China. I extremely like it because this is the mainland China, the rural area, surrounded by the bamboo forest. But we introduced the timber robotics fabrication and also the brick mansion, local bricks, and to fabricate this building. Okay, thank you.
Right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Calvin, and I'm also a faculty member at ASD. And together with Peter, we'll be your moderators for the second half. So time is running short. I would just like to briefly summarize. Well, not really summarize, just to make an observation of what has been shared. I think we started off talking about AI, but what we have heard is really a series of different perspectives, different approaches to its design and also practice, and towards different definitions of AI, right? Be it artificial intelligence, architectural intelligence, even analog intelligence. I think at the end of the day, we see a couple of, I would say, if I could call it typical objects or typologies that keeps repeating. The hut. It's almost like a primitive hut. Whether is it built collectively by individuals or by robots, I think it really provides an inspirational future for all of us to think about the future of cities, people, and citizens, and also architecture. So I think without further ado, I would just like to invite our panelists to perhaps give maybe a 1 to 2 minute kind of response to what you have heard so far in the presentation. So I think maybe we could start chronologically. We'll start from my left, yeah. By height.
Suffice to say, that was very impressive presentations from our 4 overseas guests. And interesting to hear that we went from Anu's analog AI to bricks in Philip's project. Really similar materials applied very differently. I just want to make a few observations. Firstly, before this session or before the last couple of days, AI equal to uncertainty in my mind. And I trust there will be a lot of uncertainties in everyone's mind especially when we don't know. But it occurred to me when I was looking at some of the presentations, especially where Anu talked about having the knowledge in the hands of the architect so that there will not be waste. But yet, Philip talked about that as well. And I thought the way they used the trees in Shanghai and applied it into, it's almost as if without the power of computing, we would have to rely on the physical human ability to understand materials which are not regular and otherwise would have been wasted. But I thought that scanning process and the ability to tap on that computing power was able to reduce wastage, ironically. So I thought that was a nice kind of correlation between what Anu spoke about and what Philip spoke about. I would only say perhaps that I think AI produces, or rather fills the gaps between our understanding and really provides us an ability to leapfrog into the future. So I think the fear can be transformed into ability, into opportunity, into opportunities for new forms. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Melvin. And perhaps may I invite Rita to say a few words?
Hello, Ken. Yeah. Similar thoughts, but I thought just the thing that comes to my mind when we talk about AI and how it comes in to us as architects, it doesn't really necessarily becomes separated, like you said, coexisting. In the panelists that been showed, the thing that comes out quite often is the coexistence of both. You know, you talk about the traditional, you talk about the AI, and it has to happen together. So that's quite interesting. And I'm also very delighted that very quickly, because of time, what Philip has given to us, it opens up a lot of new ideas. we're just joking with Eng Hui, because of our productivity-driven, because we cannot use breaks and your buildability score goes down, then now actually with that kind of technology we have, it opens up many new arenas for us in the use of all our traditional materials, not necessarily limited to be used by hand, to be made by hand. So I'm actually very excited. I mean, the young ones, you really have this big plethora of materials and ideas that you can use. You're only limited by your imagination. The thing that I want to reinforce is that basically we need to work together. Coexistence, co-working, community, listen to citizens, listen to the communities around us. How do we co-create our environment is actually very important. And thank you very much for the wonderful presentations.
Thank you very much.
Just continue from that to first thank the panelists for the sharing. I think it stretches our imagination. Singapore being a very small land constrained, resource constrained city and country, I think we do need all the help we can get to help us break through those constraints. So as a practicing planner, I think we quite firmly believe in the leveraging on technology, on AI to help us consider all possibility, to draw the insight, to better understand what are the needs, a very diverse need that we are facing from all kind of people and industry needs and so on. So I think technology, AI in particular, data, the flow that Gerhard talked about, help us to better understand the system that's operating here, the very diverse need that we face, and then using some of these technology to help us imagine whether there are ways for us to break beyond the constraint that we face, the old way of doing. Before this, I think some of the members here mentioned, there's a lot of fear about AI. And when we were discussing, I think we were also quite concerned whether we just focus on technology and forget about the real core foundation of architecture, of planning, and so on. I think, but the speakers have also shared, bottom of all is we should ask what problem are we trying to solve. The technology tools are all means for us to get there, but really what problems are we trying to solve? So I thought that was a very useful sharing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, thanks. First of all, amazing presentations from the beginning of AI, from what Gerhard has shared, to the current frontier of AI, from design, basically the FU cyborg, which actually I'm quite familiar. So from the whole workflow, basically, right, from the design, concept design, to the scanning, to the fabrication, and I think. I have lots of thoughts, but I just share a few. I think, for instance, I find quite interesting that there are some interesting kind of parallels in a way. The resourcefulness of human intelligence, as Anupama had mentioned, and the idea of the limits of learning, which Prof. Jeffery Huang had shared. It is interesting because the assumption is that we have no limits to learning, and from a kind of pedagogical way of thinking is that as if our students has no limits of taking on what we give them as professors. It is a very nice reminder, and also therefore also the limits of I think somewhere in the presentation Jeffrey also mentioned about there are things that are not machine learnable, which is a nice reminder that there are this very important human resource that we could make use of, and not just sort of this split between natural and artificial. And then the other part that I also find very interesting is this idea of citizen in the sense that it's almost the opposite of what's actually happening, right? What Gerhard shared is that the AI should be in the hands of the citizen as well, and to some extent also Anupama mentioned about it should be in the hands of the people. They can actually do a lot more than we assume they can. But currently, strangely enough, much of the models that have been trained is taken from the data of the citizen, and it almost kind of removed the agency of the citizen in a very capitalistic way in that sense. And as I think as an academic institution, it's quite crucial to be reminded that we have to stand up for that. Otherwise, the companies don't really care, right? They're just profit-making people, right? So in our case, we shouldn't be that. And lastly, yeah, I think that should be it. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for that reminder, right? Why we are in this education sector together. So now we have some time. We'll open up to the floor. Do we have? So before you ask questions, please identify yourself, your name, and perhaps the organization you belong to. All right, we have one from Jonathan Christian.
Hello. Hi, my name is Christian. I'm a young architect. Actually, my question is to Dr. Anupama Kundoo. Your architecture insists on the irreplaceable value of human hands and social production, but AI is often built on efficiency, automation, and often replacing even human input. So do you see that there's a fundamental contradiction? And do you see AI as a tool that risks eroding the very human dimension your practice defends? Or is there a way that it can serve and not supplant the human craft? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Actually, I have to say that this type of questions have led me to shift my perspective a little bit since I moved from India to Europe for the last 15 years, where I notice that that there is a kind of difference in the perception even of the problem, and the way technology is either creating the problem or solving the problem. One part of the globe thinks that maybe even technology is the problem, and others think, okay, this is a solution, but they don't know for which problem. So, so between all these two worlds, I have created a chair in my university at the TU Berlin called Making Matters, where I am able to actually compare exactly all these kind of things. And also to a lot of us here also mentioned the same thing about the embodied learning and the thinking hand and all of that. But what I just want to explain, like you mentioned now, Melvin, that the round wood done in my project compared to other ones, which are then you think you are not producing waste, or you are using up the wastage, because it's a question of always what you account. You are accounting some pieces of wood as wastage and thinking for months and weeks and scanning all kinds of things to be able to use everything, but you don't realize how many months of your life you may or may not have wasted, and how much energy, by the way. I just want to say that my heart, just to put in perspective, okay, I'm not a person, I'm not afraid of anything. I'm a very free person, I believe so much in the human intelligence. I live in it, I drown in it, and I'm not afraid, I don't feel insecure by robots, So I come from a perspective that I always am reminded of the advantage that I have, that I am, when you talk about what you program and then what you can do with it, you have limits. Whereas we don't have limits in what we can imagine as humans. And I always see that. So the hut that I made in the one I showed you, it is bigger because it has many rooms, etc. It was built in 1 week from design to construction by 6 people. That's what it was. And there was also no wastage. I'm just saying, it's okay. The problem is, I don't feel, therefore, we should not research things that we don't know or are not performing as good. I'm not saying that. But often the people who happen to be obsessed or, let's say, fetishize AI, often those people, they think they are so much living in their silos that they don't know even what they don't know, and they're living in that world. They don't have to confront its limits daily. Whereas the people back home in India, as opposed to, say, in Berlin, because they're living on the real world, they're breathing the real air, polluted or not. They know the realities. So they don't have a self-aggrandization in the perspective. They know what they don't know on a daily level, but sometimes there's an illusion about those other guys. Like, for example, when you spoke, I was very, very provoked to think, when you said sustainability will now be the generative and so on. But frankly, these were words. For me, these are words. Have we been more sustainable? Or when we said smart cities, we're assuming, okay, just because we thought it's already done and now the next generation is this. I know what you mean. But I'm saying for the students, it's important to know what you're thinking and what is the real world. And yes, everything is possible. But why think about either or? Don't undervalue. Like just because there are solar photovoltaics, technology, etc., that doesn't mean if I'm walking that I'm not sustainable, or that if I'm cycling, it's the way we build the narrative that is dangerous, not the actual thing.
I'm facing with a similar situation last year in Buenos Aires. They invited 6 architects from all over the world, including one architect from India, who's the dean of the Dosi Architecture School. Summit, yeah. We also have a dialogue to each other. I think it's interesting because, firstly, architecture have some knowledge there, how to construct a building, and what is materiality, what is a locality. I think that is really matters, the quality and especially the experience. This is the initial logic, initial knowledge, already there, thousands of years. But the social process is totally different on this planet, including if you're in Europe, in Switzerland, or in China, or in Singapore. I think the social process is totally different. And including the research, academic world is totally different. So most importantly, how to address yourself into the social process, I think is so important. Because the social process needs some still we need some growing of the GDP, because everyone looking forward for a better life. You need to earn money, you need to have a good life. So the social process should be growing, but the most important thing, what really matters, is how to find a sustainable way to make an efficient and ethical, responsible to this planet. I think that's the future the academia should consider. I think the more efficient or accurate of the new technology can achieve, not lose any quality of the locality or the local culture, and also it can improve. For example, in our projects, normally we'll speed up to only 1/3 of the construction process. So that is save labor, save the capital, how they rotate in this investment. That means we redefine the industry. We redefine your job for the future. We redefine how to educate next generation, how to learning and training to construct the process of the industry. That is a totally different level of the well-being on this planet for the human beings. I think I admire the rural life and also the traditional material. But if you want to build a 100-story building, if you want to build like a large span, 100-meter span building, the traditional hand is not work. You must base on the simulation, the ways how to looking into the initial possibilities and save as much as possible, not only the investment but also the time. Everything should be based on the cultural knowledge, the knowledge. That is the academia would try to produce globally. So I think the feedback is easy. We should address ourselves into the certain locality, but at the same time, I put forward the non-locality. The non-locality into locality. Non-locality is something global. We must consider, I try to quote in the Benjamin Bratton, the philosopher, rethinking on the planet but in different ways. Maybe never consider yourself in the certain local, because consider the sustainable development of the planet. Everyone is equal. Everyone facing with the climate change. That's already changed a lot of life. If we don't consider our education into that situation, maybe you spend too many energy for a better life. Especially like in the States or this kind of country, I think it's huge number of air conditioning, everything that's waste the energy. But how to consider it's more efficient in the more academic ways, rethinking, reconsider, redefine our future by ourselves. That's academia, what we should establish. That's why we're sitting here. I think that's the education, the power of pedagogy. So the first. The second, I think I admire the diversity. I think every team should have your own toolbox, AI box. It's not sharing the same ChatGPT. Everyone use that. I never use ChatGPT because we, in our FA generator, can implement all this kind of multimodal by ourselves. Right? It's kind of dialogue to my kid, right? It's two kids, it's belong to my team. So we custom it, is have the authorship for our team. So that's the future. That's the SUTD should have your own future. You should build the knowledge. I think that's the global difference in another standard, another, I think, stage. The stage of AI is coming.
Right, do you have time? We have time for one more question. Do you have a... Yes. Oh, Christian, does it answer your question? Yeah. Well, Christian, you could actually have organized a separate chat over lunch again.
My name is Abhay. I'm from a firm called as Ingrain. I want to thank Peng Beng for inviting me today. I was on a visit to Singapore and I happened to be here. It's an amazing place, a great symposium dialogue you guys are having. It's a brilliant thing. I have a question, a very important question for us from India. And before I ask the question, I have two positions to create because then you'll be able to appreciate the question. So the first position is that architecture has always been about technology. Even when the caves were carved, probably that was somebody who's very advanced technology in carving the caves. Then the bricks were formed, somebody was really appreciative of a very innovative block-like system, creating a brick hut or whatever brick house. So any and every time, architecture has always adopted the best technology and always improved and gone ahead. So AI is something we have to all eventually adopt and make it part of our work. So it is going to be the thing. So that is position number one. Position number two is that I think in 1960, India was having around 100 million people in the urban areas. And in 2040, it is projected to have around 1 billion. So that's the tenfold increase. And so far, we have already increased more than double or triple. So we need a lot of rapidity in terms of housing the people. This is a fact. We can always debate whether this is good or bad. Some may say urbanization is not good. Some may say it is really worst and whatever. But it's a fact. Every hour, so many 100 people are moving to the cities and things are changing. So whatever AI today I saw and whatever I'm seeing, it's more towards generating innovative forms, trying to build something which is not buildable in a regular way or a regular formation. But is there something happening in AI? And I would love to know about it, and I'm sure everybody wants to know. Is there anything happening in AI which is helping us build faster for the big requirement of the amazing quantum of housing, social infra, urban infra that is required across the globe in the developing nations? Because that's the 98% of the construction is happening in that segment. And I happen to be very curious about this because we are the kind of consultants who work with a large team on many large projects. I happen to be part of the Dharavi project and so many other redevelopment. And it's like we are on a war to build. So what is happening in AI that is helping us build better, faster, more efficient to address the real needs of the upcoming mega centers of the world that humanity is eventually going to stay in. Yeah, that's my pretty long question, but I'm really looking for this.
Thank you very much for the very pressing question on a very pressing issue. So would anyone like to take on the challenge to respond to this?
I want to just add to the question, others will answer if they have solutions. In my technological experience so far, I've not seen that kind of solutions of the problems you mentioned. But the reason I have stayed on the human technologies, I just want to add, because as I mentioned that when I moved to Europe, I noticed that a lot of the technologies that are developed and uniformly imposed in the world are often coming out of some loss of skills in that context. You know, like for example in Berlin, if you want to find a plumber or an electrician, you have to wait for months, you know. Or if your a glass pane is broken, there's no handwerker, they are complaining. There's a lot of discussion around it. And what is happening is that in the loss of skills or the uniform standardization of, SML sizes of everything, there is a certain typical problems. And same way, like you are, obviously, I suppose you're talking about Bombay, right? I also come from Bombay. But the reason when I traveled out of Bombay or New York and the centers where I lived, which are high density, I realized that not all the problems, they are only concentrated there in some of those places, but all the rest of India taught me actually to also see what is still working. And somehow we do have to protect that, because some of these very specific solutions to very specific areas are being imposed and placed. That's why I mentioned the hut example, because there are a lot of low-rise, a lot of other things that are still fine. But if you impose those other solution there, you're actually generating the problem. You know, this I just want to put in perspective. So in diverse contexts, like the one you mentioned, there is still a need to, by the time you catch up with the data and surveys, even the digital tools have not gone fast enough in India, because it's already so many sections of society. We are not equal, like Philip mentioned, and that's why there is this polarization. The real world is still very stratified.
I wonder if we could have a Singapore perspective on that question, maybe from Engui.
We are not facing that kind of scale of problem. But I think that with that scale of problem, I'm not so familiar with the specific building technology. But I thought the AI, the tools in terms of modeling and simulation is very useful. It first allows us to look at the city as a system, where you should build, how you should build, what are different urban systems that work within the city or series of cities. I thought technology at that level is very helpful. At least having to place your settlement at the right place, organized in the right way, and then you can look for the next self-technology on how do you build it very efficiently, very quickly. But I think at that level, the gain may be even bigger than looking at the building level.
This is our closing question, so I'd like to give everyone an opportunity to jump in. It's actually perhaps great for Professor Schmitt or Jeff, if you feel like adding anything. No, okay. We have exhausted our panel. We have asked too much. Yes, okay, great.
Yes, actually that was the toughest question, I think, and it's really it's really totally relevant. And in this sense, from the university side, about 15, 20 years ago, we tried to solve this problem in the place where it happened. This was in Ethiopia. and which has an even higher growth rate internally than other countries. And there we came to, I think, good results. I don't know how scalable they are into the millions and billion range that you're talking about. But it was really a combination then of local technology that people already knew, providing high-tech connection pieces to the houses, providing parts of sanitation and so on, and then constructing with this and teaching people how to do that, then expanding it to the local situation. And then in this way, it could be achieved that not so many people were streaming into the cities, leading to the slum situation, but could densify the villages outside of them, having a mixed use of these villages between land and animals and people living in the same environment. And eventually it really scaled. This little institute that was founded and is now the largest urban planning institute in Ethiopia. Similar approaches have popped up in Angola. I know from our students who took part in this huge, massive open online course. And so I think it's the combination of these methods. But never forget, the scaling problem is really hard, and the bamboo that we propose to use there is not the unprocessed bamboo, because after a few years it loses the capacity to hold up. So it is kind of processing in between. And lots of this has also been done in Indonesia, in Batam, from our Future Cities Lab, by people who produce these parts here in Singapore, partially, the high-tech parts, transported them there, and then there with the local population they could construct these things rather quickly. Thank you.
Well, I think to answer your question, I don't think it is AI that would provide the full solution, as in everything that we heard. It will probably be a combination of artificial and human intelligence. I think that at the urban level, maybe the AI could help to understand where to allocate the settlements and so forth. But then when it comes to building, there's always a trade-off between inexpensive labor and expensive robots and those kind of things, right? And I think that a good example is the Alejandro Arevena's Elemental in Chile, where you build half of it and let the people build the other half. Basically, you find a digital or computational way to rationalize the catalysts, right, for then people to come in to build the rest. I think this also is building on what Gerhard was talking about, citizen design science, because it is almost unimaginable that it would be artificially done from top down.
Good. So this is going to bring us to the end of our event. And while I'm going to pass out some gifts to our panelists. And while I do that, Calvin is going to help us wrap up the event. We're going to just go rapidly through the whole panel, and we're going to have closing words from everyone. One quick sentence.
So I suppose I would just share that there's much to learn. That's the phrase. Much to learn from anyone, citizen, people, experts.
All right, thank you.
I think I most admire in the age of AI should be hidden in the social process, in the design process, in the construction process.
Yeah, I think similarly, I think the future is in collective intelligence, so the combination of human and machine intelligence, and how to combine that in a way that makes sense for the particular contexts, right, and cultures and so forth.
Well, for me, I think that it's the same word about being human-centric. So everything we do, every tools that we use, should help us to be more responsive to the human need rather than just looking at it as technology.
Likewise, I think although it seems very frightening, but I think I'm quite optimistic that indeed there's a very exciting future ahead, especially for those who are still in SUTD. The future is yours.
I would like to remind us to be aware that all the technologies are there to advance, and for us to use them as tools and to be vigilant to not become the tools of the tools and keep your life in your own hands, and also to just, to be cognizant of whatever world we are in, that there is a larger world beyond that, which is also real.
Yes, I would say be aware what you think now. If it's a good thing, it will be realized in about 30 years. So it's very important to remember this. It takes quite a long time for these things to mature, that you can use these tools. That's the one thing. And the other, maybe it's a sign of hope that all the construction that's going on still now in the world, more than 60 to 70% of people can live in 1 to 2 story buildings, and they do. And the construction of those has so many new possibilities now that we shouldn't be totally discouraged.
It's tough to go last. I'm a traditionalist. I delight in the analog. So as we embrace the development of tech into the future, don't forget to develop the human as well.
Thank you very much, everyone. Let's give everyone a round of applause.